This startles Neo, and although he can now see the mystery of it all, he tries to push it all away by asking this guy Choi, "Do you ever have that feeling where you aren't sure if you are still dreaming or awake?" This is an important question, because it is meant for the viewer of the film. Have you ever had that experience? I have. Joseph Campbell used to call the Jungian shadow arising into the ego the knock principle. It meant that when something inside of you has been deeply repressed, it comes up and sounds like either a phone ringing or a knocking against your mind. Neo is ready to leave from talking with Choi, when he notices that the woman who is with Choi has a tattoo of a white rabbit on her left shoulder. This is a symbol of the left-hand path to individuation, and so Neo goes with Choi, this woman, and their friends to a bar. These bar scenes are typical of heroes' adventures. In Star Wars, the bar in Episode 4 represented the outer boundaries of the heroes who had been out there, and come back transformed in some way. At this bar in The Matrix, it is no different as Neo then meets up with Trinity, whom whispers, again, into his left ear, "I know why you're here, Neo. I know you're looking for him just as I was. When I found him, he told me I wasn't really looking for him, but I was looking for an answer." 4. It's the question that brought you here. The him that Trinity is referring to is the fugitive Morpheus, and he represents God, or the center, source, or thing that is transcendent beyond all gods, in this movie. Neo is the Son of Man, Son of God, and Trinity is the completion of the three, or the Holy Spirit or messenger. This is like many ancient mythological statues of gods and goddesses. The three heads are set up thus: the central head is the oneness of the universe, and the two heads on either side are the dualities of the oneness. Whenever you leave the center, you produce dualities. Morpheus, the one that can morph into a duality by finding and training Trinity and Neo, is the center, and Neo and Trinity are the faces and dualities, perfectly represented in the form here of the dynamics of male and female energies. The question, as it turns out, is, what is the Matrix? This is something that we learn cannot be told, because one must see it for their self. Neo then wakes up at 9:18, in Luke 9 verse 18, Jesus asks the question, "Who do people say I am?" This further reveals the confusion that Neo has. Who is he, really? Neo arrives late to work and is being reprimanded by his boss, and as his boss does his monotone berating, the window cleaner is outside and streaking the windows with a strange sound. This is a metaphor for two things. 1. The windows of the mind has to be clean so that one can see properly, and also this scene asks, isn't life strange? The job of cleaning windows, is this an angel or a guru's job? The agents then come for Neo while he is at his desk. He doesn't know what they want, but he runs and hides in an office. The only way out is to the scaffolding and an awkward segue onto the roof, but he is too afraid and cannot make the leap of faith necessary, as he is on an upper floor of a high-rise and worried about falling. He is then arrested and led out to the agent's car, and it is interesting to note here that the agents, whom we later learn are software engineered by machines, all wear sunglasses. This is a great metaphor, because the machines are afraid of the light, or the awakening of consciousness. Their eyes must remain dutifully shut in this sense and veiled behind dark glasses that betray no sign of emotion. They are of a slave mentality and live in service to something that they, personally, did not create. They serve another type of machine. The interrogation room is one of my favorite scenes, because Neo now is faced with three agents, one of which sits in a chair opposite him at a desk and produces a thick folder, which undoubtedly contains Neo's suspected criminal activities. The agent says, "As you can see, Mr. Anderson, we have had our eye on you for quite some time now." The agent goes on to say that he is aware that Neo lives two lives, that of software programmer Thomas Anderson and that of the criminal hacker Neo. He says, "One of these lives has a future, the other does not." Then he asks Neo to help bring them Morpheus, and that if he does so then they will wipe Neo's record clean. Interesting note. Morpheus is called the most dangerous man alive by the agent. Later we learn that this is so because Morpheus frees minds of those in physical, psychological, and spiritual bondage. This is what truly makes him dangerous to the system. He shows people reality. In response to this agent's offer of clemency, Neo gives the agent the finger. This is the rejection of the system that seeks to control us. Now, I am not saying one should go about hacking into computers and fighting off the police, and neither is the movie. What this is really about is the rejection of a system that Neo, and indeed all heroes must do, in order to fully individuate. It is a scene about living for yourself and deciding if you will be fully human or submit yourself to a system and become half-human/half machine, like Darth Vader in the Star Wars films. Later, Neo is instructed to go to the Adams Street Bridge where he will be picked up and brought to meet Morpheus. The city here, with street names like the above-mentioned bridge, and other references later in the film such as Wabash and Lake, are great metaphors for the hyperreality that was first proposed by Jean Baudrillard and then developed by Umberto Eco. The city that Neo lives in is gray, uninteresting, drab and dreary. It is a fusion of Chicago and other cities, and is a virtual city created by machines that is more convincing than the real world to its inhabitants. It is a dystopian future noir standing in stark contrast to the virtual city. What is hyperreality? Hyperreality is used in semiotics and postmodern philosophy to describe a hypothetical inability of consciousness to distinguish reality from fantasy, especially in technologically advanced postmodern cultures. Hyperreality is a means to characterize the way consciousness defines what is actually real in a world where a multitude of media can radically shape and filter an original event or experience. Some famous theorists of hyperreality include Jean Baudrillard, Albert Borgman, Daniel Boorstin, and Umberto Eco. Most aspects of hyperreality can be thought of as reality by proxy. Some examples are simpler. The McDonald's M arches allegedly make the material promise of endless amounts of identical food from the store, when in reality the M represents nothing, and the food produced is neither identical nor infinite, as a person would expect from a fast food restaurant. Baudrillard in particular suggests that the world we live in has been replaced by a copy world, where we seek simulated stimuli and nothing more. Baudrillard borrows from Jorge Luis Borges on exactitude in science, who already borrowed from Lewis Carroll, the example of a society whose cartographers create a map so detailed that it covers the very things it was designed to represent. When the empire declines, the map fades into the landscape and there is neither the representation nor the real remaining, just the hyperreal.